We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, September 17th here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Kwon.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, and also Ki Kim's with
Happy
us.
Hump Day.
Happy Hump Day. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So as we enter the middle of the work week, many couples might be realizing just how important a good night's sleep really is. And recently a trend called sleep divorce has been making headlines. And it sounds dramatic, but it's not about ending the marriage. It's about figuring out how to get better rest. So to start us off, so what exactly is sleep divorce and why are more people talking about it these days, Jian?
Yes, sleep divorce, it sounds absolutely dramatic indeed. Well, sleep divorce means couples still love each other but choose to sleep in separate beds. It's seen as a smart method to improve their rest and harmony at home. In fact, sleep divorce isn't about a broken marriage at all. It's about enhancing their sleep quality by using separate bedrooms or sometimes beds. And common reasons include snoring, insomnia, and different body clocks or other sleep disruptions. Many young couples are now embracing this lifestyle. And even the Wall Street Journal, they actually reported that separate sleeping is rising among younger spouses. It's seen as a smart way to improve rest and harmony at home. It's about pillows apart, however, hearts together.
Did you also have some difficulties in the beginning of adjusting to each other's sleeping habits?
It was so hard to get used to the snoring part of my husband, but now I'm used to it because I snore.
You snore as well, so it's like an equal thing. So traditionally, sharing a bed was seen as an important part of marriage. So why do you think that used to be emphasized so much, Ki?
Well, I mean, before that, every single thing Juyeon has said is what I suffer: insomnia, snoring, sleeping patterns, all different. But in the past, there was even a saying, no matter how much a couple argue or fight, they should sleep under the same blanket. That reflects how strongly the idea of sharing a bed was emphasized in married life. But today, many couples place a much greater value on the quality of the sleep, especially when they have newborn babies. They share the responsibility of taking care of the baby during nighttime, so sometimes it's necessary.
So some couples are now choosing separate bedrooms in the name of better rest, but it doesn't actually stop there. These days, there are even couples who go beyond that and choose to live almost completely separate lives. And it's quite a fascinating shift in how we think about relationships and marriage. So let's take a look at the screen to learn more. Living with someone else is never simple. It means adjusting to their habits, everything from what and when they eat to how and when they sleep. In the past, sharing the same roof and doing everything together were seen as the hallmarks of a strong marriage. But today, more couples are choosing to live apart, not because their marriage is in trouble, but because it actually helps them stay happy together. On News Generation, we take a closer look at this modern approach to marriage known as living apart together and share our own thoughts on the pros and cons. So as we just saw in the video, more and more couples are not only choosing separate bedrooms, but some are even taking it one step further. This lifestyle is known as LAT, or living apart together, where couples remain committed to each other but choose to keep separate households. At first, it might sound a bit unconventional, but it's a trend that's gaining traction actually around the world. So Jian, could you explain a bit more about what this lifestyle looks like in practice and what really defines an LAT couple?
Another dramatic change in our lifestyle. Well, LAT, as you mentioned, is short for live apart together. It describes couples who are married but keep separate homes, this time homes, not beds. I know a friend whose parents live apart but still come together at their children's events, birthday parties, showing family unity while keeping their own space. They maintain closeness while preserving their personal independence. Some researchers even call it a new form of family life that now appears across all age groups. I'm sure that you've heard of these terminologies before, like 졸혼 or graduated marriage, which is a lifestyle where married couples live independently without divorcing, or 휴혼, which is a trial separation, is a taking a break from marriage for a certain period of time, like 6 months months or a year. These were mostly shown for older generation or for older people. However, LAT appears across all age groups now. So 2 doors, but 1 family.
There are a lot of similar situations. So you might be wondering, as I did in the beginning, what's the difference between LAT couples and divorced couples who are just focused on maintaining a good relationship? And the key difference is that for LAT couples, they're still in a committed romantic relationship, whereas divorced couples are no longer together romantically. So LAT is about choosing independence while staying in the relationship, while divorced couples are simply staying cordial for family or other practical reasons. So it does seem like we've been hearing more about couples who live apart. So are we seeing this number actually grow in numbers?
Yes. So in fact, according to Statistics Korea 2025 data, the number of dual income households living apart, so-called weekend couples, rose by 44,000 compared to the year before, reaching 856,000 households. These non-cohabiting couples now account for 14% of all dual income households, making the highest proportion since the record began in 2015.
So traditionally, living apart was seen as a red flag for marriage. It usually meant there were serious problems, and that's why it was considered taboo. So couples wouldn't really openly talk about it, and society often judged them for it. But today, with the LAT lifestyle becoming more and more common, so perceptions seem to be shifting, and younger generations in particular appear to see it a bit differently. So how are millennials and Gen Zs approaching this idea of living apart together, Jian?
Well, the rise of LAT, it reflects how younger generations view separation differently. And I'll give you the specific numbers here. A recent TV survey of Koreans aged 20 to 40 asked whether married couples must always live together. And 53% said it depends. It should depend on the situation. And around 36% still felt that sharing one family truly defines a real couple. However, while 10% said they are more comfortable keeping their own space, and just 1% said unsure, they are not sure. And so this points to a clear shift away from traditional ideas of marriage. Young people now see flexibility not as a weakness, but as a smart, clever lifestyle choice, believing that personal space can actually strengthen their relationships in marriage. So love evolves, so does the way we live now.
So in the past, when couples lived apart, what was usually the reason behind it?
Well, in the past, living apart usually meant the couples were on the brink of divorce and taking separation as a step before ending their marriage. But from the mid-1990s, with the surge of private education, many families sent the mother and children abroad for study, and while the father stayed behind to work in Korea, what came to be known as 기러기 아빠, or goose father phenomenon, that practice has since declined, partly because of the negative perception surrounding it. And as for weekend couples, they weren't nearly as common back then. But today, with more women participating actively in the workforce and making that extra income, career demands have made weekend marriages far more prevalent.
So what are your thoughts on weekend marriages?
I mean, it really depends on the situation, but if both of you are working and you are going to be responsible for financially, then I think it works as long as you share the responsibility of householding, and also when you especially have like kids.
That's a big difference, right?
During the weekend, you have to just if one parent is taking care of the whole children, then the other parent has to just work more during the weekends to take care of the babies. So I guess it all really depends.
So I guess it really, as either ways, communication is really important. So we've been talking about the rise of couples that live apart and how perceptions of this lifestyle, especially among younger generations, are changing. But what do our viewers think about this? To find out, we turned to our Arirang News YouTube community and asked, what's your view on married couples living apart? So let's take a look at what they had to say. So 66% said it really depends on the situation. Meanwhile, 27% believe couples should always live together, while 6% feel that living separately is the better option. And finally, about 1% had other views. So it looks like the majority of people believe that it really depends on the situation, which makes sense because every marriage is quite different. And both of you have personal experiences with marriage, so you know what it's really like day to day. So hearing about trends like LAT and couples living apart, so what are your thoughts on this, June? Do you think this approach could work, or is it something that you'd personally never really consider?
Well, from my perspective, I think it will work well under certain conditions. You've got to set a certain period of time and clear agreements between your wife and husband, of course. And couples need to decide these when and how often they will meet and keep that promise. I even noticed this myself whenever I come back from a work trip or a short journey. I promise that I will come back on Saturday or Sunday. Seeing my husband and children feels even warmer and more precious indeed. And for example, my own brother, he works in Seoul while his wife and young daughter, they live in Busan. So they are obviously a weekend couple. So even though it's quite expensive and tiring, exhausted always, he takes a KTX train every single week in order to see his family. And this effort keeps their bond stronger, and in my opinion, even gives their marriage a healthier balance. So travel away, return with more affection.
So you're kind of open to, doing
Yeah.
LAT, for example. So what are some reasons or situations that you'd consider LAT?
I think work-wise, if I've got to work in a certain place or he has to work in a different place, then we've got to talk.
Talk about the situation.
That's right. Yes.
So what about you, Ki?
Well, my sister, as a matter of fact, is a weekend couple because her husband works in Pyeongtaek, whereas she has to stay here for her work, and and my mom is helping them out, so it works somehow. And so depending on the circumstances, some people feel it doesn't really matter if a couple lives separate, apart. And in fact, at times they even believe being apart can be better. And like Jiyeon said, when I come back from a short business trip, I appreciate my family more, and they did feel the same way too. Many couples wish for their private space and their time sometimes, and I think respecting that aspect is also very important.
I agree. So factors like work schedules, personal habits, and family responsibilities all play a role in what works best for each couple. So it really comes down to finding that balance that keeps both partners happy. So to get a more global perspective on this, we're going to speak with a young person from a different country to learn whether LAT couples are on the rise in his country. That conversation will take up right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out Channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Jessie Ashdown, a millennial from Britain. Hi, Jessie. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So have you noticed couples who live apart becoming more common in Britain?
I would say no, but I do think it is something that could become more common as time goes on, especially since I think people's attitudes towards couples' life has changed in the UK, I would say.
I do. I see. Let's go on. Yes.
Oh, no, that's what I would say. It's not really
Okay.
a thing that I've seen personally,
Oh.
but I think it could be a thing, but it's neither here or there right now, I would say.
Okay, Jessie, then how do millennials and Gen Z in Britain generally view couples that live apart?
Well, I would say that the initial response would probably be a bit of confusion and concern. They would probably assume that there was some sort of issue in the relationship, and that's why people are living apart. But I think once the couple explain their situation, I actually think there'd be quite a lot of respect for the couple. Because I was actually talking to some of my friends about this, and the general consensus is that a lot of people found such a situation quite appealing to them because it gives them a lot of personal time and space. And most of the concerns weren't really about the relationship aspect, but more the financial aspect of the situation.
Sure. Just what do you think are the pros and cons of those couples who are living apart, and would you personally choose this sort of lifestyle?
Well, I think one of the pros is that it enables you to have your own space to do your own independent things and sort of have a break from your partner. Because no matter how much you like someone or like being with them, there are still times where you need a little bit of time to yourself. And if you have two separate households, you really have a choice in how much time you want to spend together. Whereas if you have one, you're kind of stuck together at the hip. Whereas a con of the situation is that it could potentially be not unstable, but a less stable situation to raise a family in if that's what you wanted. And if you're not careful, your relationship could quickly deteriorate or decline. Personally, I think I would be okay with such a situation. I'm quite an independent person, and I would appreciate the opportunity to have my own space at my own time. And also I have a career which is quite unstable with work hours. So I would probably end up being in a weekend couple situation anyways, because I'm so busy with work. But I fundamentally think that any sort of situation would just rely on communication. So it wouldn't be my ideal plan. I would never choose to do it if I had a choice. But if the situation required it, I'd be fine with the situation, is sort of my approach.
I agree. I think it's really about the situation that, you know, two people are in. So it's communication, I guess, will be really important. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a millennial from Britain about how couples who are living apart are viewed in this country, what younger generations think of this lifestyle, and the pros and cons he sees from his perspective. So it's fascinating to compare this with what we've been seeing here and to think about how culture shapes the way couples approach marriage. And speaking of pros and cons, which is a big part of today's discussion, I'd love to hear from both of you, starting with you, Jihyun. What do you think are the potential challenges of living apart? And if you have any personal experience or stories, please feel free to share.
Yeah, of course. Life is a challenge, and especially marriage is a challenge indeed. But I reckon living apart can offer both closeness and freedom at the same time to both of them, of course. And in today's world, many people feel a real need for their personal space, their room sometimes, and this arrangement can satisfy that desire. So from my experience, even during conflicts, that means fighting, having quarrel, taking some time apart to reflect makes making up much easier and calmer. When my husband and I disagree on something, I step away before it escalate. Sometimes just leaving the room or leave the house for a while. After some time alone, we can meet again and we get calmer and more understanding. So, but of course there are some downsides, of course, and as emotional distance and misunderstandings can build up more easily without daily face-to-face contact, you know, and also there could be some emergencies like illness or accidents can happen. So care may be lacking, and two homes also mean double the cost. You've got to buy the furniture, all the stuff you need for the house. So while living apart can refresh a marriage itself, it needs planning, commitment, and money, of course, and a lot of trust to truly work.
So this reminds me of the saying like absence makes the heart grow fonder, or out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Which side are you more of a believer of?
I don't know. It depends on the situation.
It really does. It really
yes.
does. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you don't think this is a bad idea. Could you share what you see as the main advantages of this approach?
Well, during the COVID era, I thought we were suffocating because, of course, we're stuck in the same room and then we couldn't move and we couldn't go anywhere. But on the positive side, having separate space can reduce the friction in daily life and even improve things like the sleep quality or personal well-being. Some couples find that it's very important, and a distance helps them appreciate each other more, keeping the relationship fresh. And of course, it allows each partner greater independence to focus on their own career or personal growth. Every couple has different ways of overcoming disagreement. In my case, Kit's mom wants to clear things right away, whereas for me, like Jihyun, I need some time off to cool myself down. And it always doesn't work the exact way I want, but I guess that's the marriage. But there are drawbacks too. In families with children, one partner normally ends up carrying more of the parenting and household burden. There's still lingering social perception that separation signals trouble in marriage. So it really depends on how each couple manages that balance.
Are there any moments where you feel like independence is really important? Like Jesse also mentioned that too, like having a personal time is really important.
I mean, sometimes you have to prepare for, the next day just for work, right? Or sometimes you want to focus on something, but with children running around and moms yelling, obviously that's rough to do. So that's exactly why you need some space, and then sometimes you just want to take a break from everything, and then being independent and living apart sometimes probably can help that out too.
And I think we all want our own hobbies and our own time to do stuff as well.
Especially when I'm making Lego and kids come in and breaks it, then you know what happens next.
So we've heard a lot about the rise of LAT couples, how perceptions are changing, and the pros and cons of living apart. So to wrap up our discussion today, based on everything we've talked about today, what would you say are the key points or precautions couples should keep in mind if they're considering choosing the LAT lifestyle, Jihyun?
Well, it is sumyan ihon in Korean, and it says LAT, live apart together. The terminology itself doesn't make sense. Live apart, but together. So, well, it is another form of family style in today's society, but it's a decision that needs a careful thought. Indeed, so couples should have open discussions a lot and set clear expectations before choosing it. So they also need to plan how to stay emotionally connected because they are still together emotionally while living apart. And in the end, trust, communication, and flexibility are the key issue to making LAT actually work wisely. So different addresses, united hearts until we meet again.
So I asked Key this question earlier too, but is there a way that you and your husband also have your own thing?
Own thing. Well, he has his own space. I allow him to buy whatever he wants.
That's very kind of you.
Kind of. I don't know, but like he asks me whether he can buy this or not, and then I tell him that you've got to tell me like, at least 100 reasons to buy 100, at least 100 reasons, and he explains that, and then I say yes to him, and also he has his own space. So that's why men need that. Is that
You're
true?
a really nice wife. You're a good wife.
And it's important to understand each other's differences as
That's
well.
right. That's the key.
I'm sure there's things you also enjoy too.
I enjoy my freedom. I enjoy my free hands. So if I want to do that, if I want that, I ask him whether I can go out this night or sometimes can I hang out with my friends for a while. And he allows me to do that.
Right, I see. So what do you think about this?
Well, I think the idea of live apart but together really reflects changing attitudes towards intimacy and the personal freedom. And it's not about lacking love. They love each other, but it's about respecting each other's space and lifestyle. So I say LAT is a sign that the modern relationships are becoming more diverse and flexible, with people redefining what partnership means to them. But again, like Jiyeon said, it should be controlled, it should be planned.
So living apart together might have seemed unconventional in the past, but as you've seen today, it's becoming an increasingly common choice for couples who want to balance personal space with a strong relationship. So it's important to remember not to judge others' choices and to stay open-minded. What works for one couple might not for another. So whether it's about sleep, work, or lifestyle preferences, what matters most is finding what works best for both partners. And this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Big thanks to Jiyeon.
Thank you for having me, Sejin.
And also Ki.
Thank you.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for watching, and we hope you have the best day. We are News
Generation.